Hello, everybody. This is Lisa, Something Beautiful Handcrafts, and I just want to talk to you about Samantha's Pinafore dress and the Pinafore itself. So, the Pinafore dress is pretty basic, and it's so basic that I just kind of did some steps ahead of time. Okay, so you have the bodice front, which is cut on a fold, and the two bodice backs. So, you sew them together at the sides, and then you have a neckline. And basically, I don't know if you're not familiar with how to make the neck edges. Basically, you take the strip, you fold it in half, and then you have a crease here. Then you fold the insides, and it makes like a seam tape. Okay, iron that down, and then you're taking that casing that you have now, and you are sewing it around the neck edge here. Okay, so this is always one of the hardest parts for me, and it's one of those places where I like to base it first because I have a hard time working the pins when I'm working in the curve. But this one didn't turn out quite so bad, so I'm pretty happy about that. All right, now I put this aside and I'm moving on to the sleeves. Currently, what I did is I set my sewing machine for the longest stitch, and I do that with the gathers. So you run the gathering line across the top of the sleeve, gathering across the bottom of the sleeve, and then you have a gathering across the top of the skirt. So I'm all done with my gathering, so that way I can set my machine back, clear off my space a little bit, and move these bands out of the way. Go ahead and change my machine back to the stitch length that I want. And I better clear these needles out of the way because they do get in the way. Okay, so next what happens here is I am going to work on the sleeves. Now the pattern wants you to do the bottom of the sleeves before you do the top, because the sleeves are going to be set in straight. What is supposed to happen, it's like 1,000 threads here. Okay, so ideally these should be ironed down, and they're a lot easier to work with. Sometimes I just kind of fold them and fudge them and stick them on, but ideally they're easier to work with when they are ironed down. So I'm going to go ahead and iron these pieces down so you can see the proper way to do it. Okay, so here we are. These are all done. I didn't put the lace on the bottom because I only have a little bit of lace left, and I can put on it any other time. So I'm going to check this out. All right, so these guys go on, and you know what? There is a right side and a wrong side, maybe not. Okay, so I won't worry about that. Okay, so I'm going to pin these guys down to their edges. Like there are always so many strings. I'm like forever cutting strings. It's just a thing. Okay, so I usually like to find the middle, put this in the middle. I have to remember, I forgot to press these open. That's one of those things I always forget. Press them open. And so I just have to make sure they're both lying in the same direction. And then I like to do my gathers from there. I pin up to the point right before the gather starts. Okay, so now time to fix my gathers. Okay, that's much easier to see. I need a little more over here. Okay, oh, well, except for that right there. Okay, I'm relatively happy with that. Good, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick a pin in that. Let me see. Zoom is like not an easy thing with the camera. Try not to pull the pins out too far in advance of the machine. Okay, that looks okay. It's a little deeper here than I want. I kind of got pushed with the needle, but I think I'm okay with that. I'm going to put the other one on. It works the same way, of course. Right sides together. I was like, where am I? And sometimes you just like, you get lost. You're like, where am I? What just happened? Okay, I did manage to get both of those lying in the same direction, which was nice. It's like a mindful thing for me. I have to be mindful. That's the beauty of it too with the doll clothes. A lot of times when I'm doing people clothes, um, of course they're a lot bigger pieces. I'm not really doing fine detailed work, and so I can like just be rough about it. If you try that with doll clothes, they don't fit. They're pretty exacting. I don't know, it seems kind of bunchy to me. That's better. I'm going to put a pin sideways in that. Probably in this one too. Okay, that looks about right to me. I'm trying to get all these extra strings. You want to keep them from bunching up. Because they create havoc. They get caught in my feet, dogs, and they make a mess for me. And the presser foot pushes things along, and I'm on a curve so that I run into potential issues as I turn this. It wants to press these things up. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is I'm going to tidy this up because, as you can see, there's like a billion strings. Then I'm going to go ahead and zigzag the edges around here and clean that up. So here we are with that. Strings everywhere. I'm going to go ahead and zigzag the edges down the side. And these right here, I still have to put the lace on, and I have to put the snaps on. So I'm going to clean these up by hand. And after I zigzag down the sides here, I'm going to be done with the bodice part. Okay, moving on to the Pinafore part. So I have the pieces cut out for the Pinafore sash. So first of all, what you are supposed to do is create a double fold hem. And I have a narrow hemmer here. I almost never use it because sometimes it's a pain to operate. It's easier just to fold. One of the best ways to do this is to fold a 1/4 inch, iron it, and then tuck that 1/4 inch fold into half, and then you'll get your narrow hemmer, your narrow hem, which is a great idea to normally do. So I do my 1/4 inch fold. Let's just say I ironed it, and I'm going to tuck that 1/4 inch into itself, so I have an 1/8 inch narrow hem. And I'm going to pin this first part because I find that I have a hard time getting it past the feed dogs and presser foot over here. It's just, this machine really hates small pieces of fabric. So I have to have something to pull them through. I'm just going to lightly turn it under my finger and kind of get this thing going. Oh, you know what? It's still on zigzag, so we really don't want that. You got to check those things out. So I need to put this over here. Okay, it looks like the feed dog is advancing that properly. Like I said, this would be easier for you if you would iron it first. I'm just going to tuck that in, and this machine, as always, is going to fly. This is also less awkward to do when the camera is not on my left side, because I would be holding it out with my left hand, turning with my right as the machine goes, which I can't do with the camera on that side. Really got to figure out something to do with this camera. Okay, that looks nice and narrow. They say narrow hem, really mean narrow hem. Okay. Okay, so what we've got is a basically fairly decent narrow hem. Little places where I could have done better, but hey. Now I'm going to repeat that task, and I'm going to see if I can make some kind of adjustment so that I can put my arm where it needs to be. Let's try that. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and get my fold started. That's a good start. You're probably wondering why don't I just pin this all the way down. And I just find pinning these narrow folds, it's like, because they are so small and narrow, there's not a lot of space for the pin to grip, for the pin to be at. And they seem to get in the way, and they just start to fold. A lot of times they just do. Or because there's not enough space to weave the pin in and out, it'll grip the top layer, but it won't grip what's folded underneath. And that's not particularly useful to me at all either. So for really the best way for me is to get my shoulder in there, the space where the camera's at, turn this, hold this with this hand. Okay, see, doesn't that look a lot less awkward? I'm folding it, and I'm tucking it in. This one's going to be a little... All right, see, there we go. Okay, now, according to the directions, we are going to fold the sash diagonally with the wrong sides together to form the point. That looks good. Go ahead and pin that in place. Then we have this one. Fold this one over. Then I'm going to turn these ends and do a second narrow hem down the side here. Okay, so I'm doing the bottom side, bottom edge of the sash, and I am pinning it this time because I got a lot of extra bulk at the other end because I'm folding over the extra layer created when the sash is folded at the end in a triangle. So I'm going to have this extra bulk down here, and as you can see, it didn't stay in very well, which I expected and suspected. Which is normally how I justify not pinning and just holding it down. But in this case, because there is all that extra bulk, I'm going to pin it down in preparation. That'll help me just a tiny bit. I took the time to do that. None of the lazy way. Okay, so now we have our waistband. Okay. So the waistband is supposed to be folded lengthwise with the right sides together. And this is basically white. So whichever side I decide is the right side, right? And then each end of the waistband, I am supposed to pin a sash inside fold, okay? And then I'm going to stitch the 1/4 inch seam and then turn the waistband to the right side, okay? So here's what I wound up with. So the directions ask you to stop with double folding the hem here, and then along the sides, both layers of fabric at the point, right? Okay. Then got this kind of chunk at the end, and I really couldn't fold it down, so I'm just going to snip it. And probably I will just hand stitch it in. I had an issue with that fold. It really should stuff down in there, but to be honest, I couldn't really get it, so we're okay with that. But where it got confusing is it says fold and pin tucks in place along the short end. What tucks? When you look at the pattern, there are no tucks on the pattern, right? I don't see any tucks. It doesn't say tuck anywhere. Then it tells you to fold the waistband. Here's the little waistband. You're folding it lengthwise, right sides together. So you see how narrow this is, right? But you've got this sash. And I'm like, well, they don't match. I mean, the pattern's obviously this big sash. It doesn't tell you to fold it anywhere. It tells you to double fold the hem right here. It doesn't tell you to double fold this big hem. There's a little hem. Fold right here, fold right here. That's only a 1/4 inch. So I've got this gigantic sash and this little teeny fold. So I was like, what in the world is going on? So I had to look around. The pictures aren't all that great. Most of the time, the Pleasant Company patterns are just fine. And sometimes you're like, what are they talking about? Okay, so it says fold and pin tucks in place along the short end. So here's my short end. So many strings. And I'm just going to make a tuck. Well, hey, why not? Let's get a tuck going on here. Bam. And I'm going to make this tuck match. Oh, you know what? Let's pin this. I'm going to make this tuck match this folded in half. And then it occurred to me too, like I'm thinking turning it inside out, like how's that actually going to work? But of course, what the picture doesn't show and what I'm assuming is going to happen, let me pin this in place. All right. I want it to be about the width of that looks like that might be about the right width. Go ahead and pin that. Let me see, what end of this is going to be? This is going to be that one. So yes, I do need to make these equal because that's the way I feel about things. Pin that into place. And did I get that crappy pin? Yeah, I did. I used one of my pins to get like the E6000 out of the glue bottle. And then I put it back. And I keep putting it back. And so I have to make sure I'm not using the wrong pin. Okay, so I'm going to put this inside here. Then this is going to get turned inside out. So that's why I'm trying to figure out what direction I'm turning this in. Because I need them to... Okay, there we go. I need them to look right once I turn it inside out. So stick this on the inside, which the pattern doesn't say, but that is what the pattern means. Okay. And I can't really fold it with that pin there. Fold it over. And pin that in. That's what the pattern is trying to tell you. Okay, so we got that one in. Now on the other side, gonna make that same tuck. Folds and tucks, right? Then I'm going to put it inside here. Let me look at that. Okay, that's about right. I don't think you could see the finger press mark, but I could see the finger press mark. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a 1/4 inch seam on that, which is what the pattern calls for. Then it says to turn waistband to the right sides. So when I turn this back to the right sides, I should have a encased. If I did it right, okay, it looks like I did it right. And the ends are turned up in the correct ways. And the band is on. And that looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and clip those ends and go on to the next step. Okay, so this is how I folded this with the pen tucks. And I actually brought the tucks up instead of down. And I wasn't really sure what to do in that regard. So I had to get a picture of the Pinafore dress. And from what I can tell, the tucks are turned up. So it gives me 3 indications as to where to stitch. So I'm going to try to put those stitch lines in the places indicated. And of course, this needle, as usual, is in the way. This pen, get this thing out of my way. Okay, so that's one place. The other one's going to be here. And let's get that down there. Okay, that looks pretty good. And that jumped a little bit over there. It's going to fold back, so that may not be an issue for me. Okay, there were 2 tucks right here. 1, 2, 3. It's like 3 or 4 stitch lines. So I'm assuming that these guys are going to be for the lace and the strap. And we'll get to that in a moment. So this piece in the middle is pretty much ready to go. Putting together the lace for the Pinafore, I could not find 1.5 inch lace, and well, I couldn't find 1.5 inch. So I got the 2-inch lace. So what I did is I offset the 2-inch lace. It's supposed to be offset by a 1/2 inch, but kind of looks like it's not quite. So at any rate, it's offset, and I'm going to go ahead and pin it to the straps right here to make the complete strap. Firstly, I have to apologize because this video is already long, but I condensed a couple hours worth of work into maybe 40 minutes. And this is pretty much what happens when I go full tutorial, basically. So if this is something that you like, let me know. If not, I'll just continue with the briefs and keep them under 20 minutes. Okay, so what happened is it looks like somehow either I didn't record or the last end of this video got deleted. There's a ton of videos on this device, and I have to delete them in order to get more and allow my Google storage to clear. So let me just talk you through this. I got the lace onto the bands, which was pretty simple. It's just another one of those double fold casing type deals. You wrap it over the end of the lace and you stitch it down. It was really bulky, and I still have not changed the needle on my machine, so I had a hard time sewing through it. I'm just going to have to start swapping needles. Okay, so anyway, it's on there. And then I put the piece of lace in between. I don't know what happened. Probably I was watching TV, or I don't know, doing whatever. And I got this messed up. So I actually turned it inside out like that. And so instead of taking the whole thing apart, I just took the piece of tulle that is supposed to support here off of the front, and at some point I'm supposed to put it in the back, but it doesn't actually really matter to me, so hasn't been there yet. Okay, here's where the hard part came, especially since I've already said that I didn't change my needle. This is a really big hem. I think it's 3/8 or something, and I edged it, as you can see. That way it would look encased. I just really liked it better that way. Then I folded it. It's easy peasy. I did this. This one is a narrow fold right here, so I have nice clean edges. And then all of that was encased in the waistband. If you remember, it was just the raw edges of the waistband hanging with the 2 sashes out on the side. Don't look at that string. I need to cut so many strings. Okay, so what happened was the top part right here of the apron plus the skirt of the apron after it was gathered were all tucked into the waistband, and then a 1/4 inch hem was tucked into the waistband as well. Now with all that tucked in, then you stitch across the waistband and everything is encased. This was a lot of trouble. It really was, trying to keep this all tucked in and it gathers right in, because it's not tucked all the way up to the top like the casing would. It's just hanging out on the edge. So after some unsuccessful excuse me, attempts, because I really didn't want this to show here, and so I would stitch here and then turn it over and realize that piece back here hadn't been caught, which happens sometimes with casing. So finally what I did, like the silly that I am, is I stitched the apron to the raw edge of one of the sides. And then I just flipped that under a 1/4 inch, flip this under a 1/4 inch and stitch it over top of it. I don't know what I was thinking, which is what I normally do when I do sleeves. I just stitch one edge and then I flip it over, stitch it again. Okay, so got all that bulk in there, and this turned out extremely cute, and I can't wait to make more of these things. All right, that's enough for this video. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please put that down below. These things are just so incredibly cute. All right, on to her cape. You have a great day.